Mr. Speaker, my election represents a historic moment for London Fanshawe. For decades, many in our community felt their voices went unheard, their concerns overlooked. But today, as we're witnessing a new dawn, London Fanshawe stands proudly as a beacon, a testament to the power of democracy and the change that it brings when pursuing genuine representation. Our community will no longer be a silent observer, but an active participant shaping in our country's future. As the first Conservative Member of Parliament in London Fanshawe's history, on my first address in the sacred chamber, it is my duty to speak truth to power. The truth, Mr. Speaker, is the last decade has been an unmitigated disaster. The Liberals, together with their NDP accomplices, have destroyed the middle class, cheapened the dollar while inflating the price of everything. They've trampled on Canadians' rights and freedoms and have caused so much division. Worst of all, they broke the Canadian promise that up until now has passed from generation to generation. The promise that hard work leads to a good life and a beautiful home on a safe street was not theirs to break. It is much bigger than any party, bigger than any prime minister. It is the heart of what makes Canada the best country on earth. I will fight relentlessly to restore the promise for London Fanshawe and for all Canadians. This is what it's all about. On her deathbed in 2015, my mother said to me, "Kurt, live a wonderful life and be happy." I think it's safe to say that every parent wants this for their children. We must restore Canada's promise so that all Canadians can live a wonderful life and be happy. Mr. Speaker, I'm a computer analyst, raised in a small town in Forest, Ontario, a graduate of North Lambton Secondary School, class of 1999. Graduate of the Computer Engineering Technology program at Lambton College in Sarnia, Ontario in 2002. With 27 years of information technology experience and recently earning from McMaster University an MBA in digital transformation utilizing artificial intelligence. In information technology, when a system fails, you can try rebooting. But if the issue is at the core, a system restart won't do much. Turning the Liberal government on and off again and over again won't fix Canada's problems. Until recently, I would have never even thought about running for office, but I couldn't sit this one out. I saw too much struggle, pain, and despair, and I felt compelled to do something about it. So I put disappointment and frustration into action. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister ran on change. He distanced himself from the failed experiments of the former Liberal Prime Minister and even borrowed a number of Conservative policies. If he is sincere, if that was more than just rhetoric, I, along with my Conservative colleagues, will gladly work together to bring real change. I echo the Honourable Pierre Poilievre in welcoming the Prime Minister to borrow many more Conservative ideas so that our country so desperately needs. Unfortunately, with every passing day, it's becoming clearer and clearer that when it comes to actions, not words, the new Liberal government is no different. Not exactly a big surprise with the same team of radicals are in the cabinet, but very disappointing nonetheless. Canadians deserve to be treated like adults, with honesty, respect, and transparency. The status quo, whether in silly socks or in fancy banker suits, is still the status quo, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister promised change. He presented himself as a man with a plan. But as soon as he got elected, he tabled a massive $500 billion spending bill, increasing government spending by 8%, and announced that he won't get a budget anytime soon. Does that look like change to you, Mr. Speaker? Let's talk about elbows up. If only Canadians saved a nickel off their taxes every time this Prime Minister said those two words, eh? And yet, behind closed doors, we discovered his cabinet quietly exempted American industries from nearly every tariff they publicly championed. Does that seem like change, Mr. Speaker? No wonder President Trump endorsed the Liberals. Let's talk about the cornerstone policy of the NDP Liberal government over the last decade, the carbon tax. After ignoring the painful economic consequences from this inflationary punishment, this government now attempts a sleight of hand, shifting the tax from consumers directly onto the producers. Are Canadians really expected to believe businesses will simply absorb these costs? Of course not. The costs will fall onto everyday Canadians. Across London Fanshawe, small and medium-sized businesses form the heartbeat of our local economy. Yet, under these new burdens, our businesses are expected to elbow up But in reality, this government is tying their elbows behind their backs. I'm a firm believer that success builds success. Our businesses need the government to get out of the way so they can succeed. Their success will build a successful economy. It's common sense. This carbon tax, much like the original, is not environmental stewardship. It's economic sabotage. London Fanshaw's entrepreneurs deserve better. They deserve policies that unleash innovation, foster competition, and allow our businesses to thrive, not barely survive. Moreover, young families and students in London Fanshawe face unprecedented challenges as housing prices skyrocket beyond reach. Yet this government's new housing minister says lowering housing prices isn't even on their agenda. What kind of future are we building when home ownership becomes an unattainable dream? Inflation under this government has pushed hardworking families to the brink. London Fanshawe residents are seeing their paychecks shrink and their expenses surge every day. We cannot afford this directionless drift any longer. Our economy needs clarity, not confusion. We must empower, not impede, our businesses, entrepreneurs, and workers. It's time to remove the barriers holding them back and give them the freedom to drive our economy forward. The business people, the entrepreneurs, the white-collar and blue-collar workers are the pillars of London Fanshawe. They are the people that work long hours to put food on the table. They just want to know that hard work leads to a good and happy life, both for them and one day their children. As a government in waiting, we stand ready with practical solutions. To the parents who lie awake wondering what tomorrow will bring, rest assured, we'll fight to secure a brighter future for your children. London Fanshawe chose hope over division, prosperity over empty promises, and leadership over empty gestures. I am committed to representing their interests vigorously in Ottawa. Together, we will ensure our community's voice is strong, respected, and impactful. Thank you. Merci.
Hear, hear.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Victoria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and congratulations to the member opposite on his election. I look forward to working with him in this chamber. Like many of his colleagues, though, we heard in his maiden speech more hyperbole and exaggeration than actual fact or analysis of the reality of this country after a number of very difficult years due to major world historical altering circumstances. The member suggested that Canadians deserve honesty and respect, and I couldn't agree more. I wonder whether the member would agree that one way to show honesty and respect to Canadians would be to acknowledge that in the election that we just had, his party was found wanting, his leader lost his seat, and Canadians chose the Liberal Party to form the Government of Canada.
The honourable member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member opposite for his question, but I did hear directly from the residents of London Fanshawe various scenarios at the door. For example, a constituent, a 65-year-old nurse who broke into tears when I knocked on the door. She broke down when she told me how exhausted she was under the previous Liberal government. She broke in and told me how exhausted she was, telling me about her inability to afford life because of this government. She and her husband are living paycheck to paycheck, unable to even think about retirement. The government failed her, and the millions of Canadians like her. Thank you.
Questions et commentaires. L'honorable.
Questions, comments. The honourable member for Mirabel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to congratulate my colleague for his election. Earlier, the Liberal member from Egmont gave a speech which I found scandalous, where he announced that health care isn't a strictly provincial issue, even though under the Constitution it is provincial jurisdiction. So if Ottawa's getting in that, it's because, well, what's happening is all the provinces, all the premiers of the provinces and territories have requested that public funding for healthcare cover 35% through the federal government. The Liberal government's never respected that. And now what we're hearing today is that Ottawa hasn't done anything wrong, and it's the fault of the provinces if we're having a hard time in healthcare. So I'd ask my colleague, does my colleague believe that the federal government should increase the healthcare transfers to 35% of the cost of the system? And does he agree with the fact that there shouldn't be any conditions imposed on those transfers?
Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the gentleman for asking the question. Unfortunately, I could barely understand. I could barely hear the question. All I can say, though, that in London Fanshawe, with regards to what's happening there is with its contrast is what the Conservatives say compared to what the Liberal and NDP's approach with regards to dealing with what is affecting Canadians today. There are all sorts of issues that are being affected with locally back in London Fanshawe, as I heard at the door. The increased cost of living, the burden that the next generation is unable to afford housing, and also the increase in crime. The issues keep occurring and occurring and occurring, and the sitting government just does not solve the problems. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for Peace River Westlock.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just yesterday, one of my good friends had his truck stolen in Edmonton. And I know that crime is a problem across the country. I want to thank the honourable member for bringing up crime. I'm just wondering if he has any examples from his constituency of crime that has happened and perhaps the trend lines that have taken place over the last 10 years.
The honourable member for London Fanshawe.
I would like to thank my colleague for asking this question. Yes, there has been increased crime in London Fanshawe, primarily the break and enter of businesses, small businesses, where it does impact the local economy of London Fanshawe, where I applaud personal entrepreneurs to build these businesses, but unfortunately crime has increased where break and enters occur and theft has occurred at local small and medium-sized businesses that do try to strive in London Fanshawe. Thank you.
Time for a very, very brief question.
The honourable member for Mirabel, a few seconds. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll make this quick. It's a new Conservative member. I'm curious, does the member believe that climate change is a proven scientific phenomenon that exists?
I thank the member opposite for asking this question. With regards about climate change, I think it is a concern that needs to be addressed across Canada, and therefore with regards with the environment itself. But at a time like this and at a critical time for London Fanshawe and for the country itself, I do feel there's other critical issues, as I said earlier, the cost of living, housing prices, and also crime.
I do have to interrupt the member to go to resuming debate.